Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel Mavericks Arcade. My name is Chuck and today we're going to be talking about creating custom bezels. Now also, it's been a while since I've recorded a video and I wanted to say thank you to all the people that have been subscribing. We're almost at 360. Now, when I first started this, I was praying that I could get to 100 just so I could get a custom URL, but the fact that we're at almost 360 now is awesome. Keep coming, that's great. I love helping you guys out. Love getting some of your feedback. And it's just a fun hobby that I'm sure you guys enjoy just as much. So what we're doing today is, obviously when you're playing your video games, we're playing on large high definition screens, which these games were obviously not made for. So we ended up getting a lot of borders on the side. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to switch over to another view here. So that I can show you guys some of the math. So the first thing that we got to do is we've got to figure out how much of that extra space is going to be on the sides. So the way we do that is, let's say in my case I'm using a I'm using a full 1080 screen. So let me pull up my whiteboard over here and let me draw it on here for you. So we're talking about and I gotta watch my writing on here. I'm still not used to this function. 1920 by 10. You can. Now, we've got that screen size, and we, by default, all the games are able to do a 4:3 ratio, which is what the standard TV ratio was for the low def days or the regular tube TVs. Some of the games have various or different settings, which we will explore momentarily. But let's first look at 4:3. So again, so the math would be, if we want to figure out how much space there would be, we're doing a 4:3 ratio. So what we do is we divide 1924 or 1920 by 4. And when we divide 1920 by 4, we get, my cursor, we get 480. So we then multiply that by 3, and we get, cursor, again, I'm getting used to this screen, 1 4 4 0. So what that tells us is, if we were going to do it for HD in a widescreen format, we're going to need a resolution for our layouts of 14, or our game screen is going to take up the resolution of 1440 PNX by 1080. Again, it's kind of sloppy, forgive me. So what does that mean? Well, that's the amount right there that the actual emulator is going to use in a 4:3 configuration. So what we now need to do is to take the 1920 and subtract that by 1440. So 1920 minus 1440 means, to the left and the right, there is 480 pixels left over. So what we then do is we're going to need to figure out for the left and the right. So what that means is, on the left, there'll need to be 240. And on the right, there'll need to be 240. So on the left of our screen, we're going to have a panel that is 240 by 1080. 1080. And then over here, the same thing. So the easy way to do that, and again, so you got the math up here. Again, all we did is we took 1920, divided it by 4, Took that result, multiplied it by 3. That's our new horizontal amount, and we still use the same vertical. We then subtracted 1440 from 1920 to get 480, which tells us on the left and the right we need 240 pixels. So we're going to save that math, but just shut it off for a moment. And now I'm going to show you how that works in how you would make that sort of graphic. So what I'm doing right now is I'm loading up my copy of Photoshop. Throw it over here on my second screen, and I'm going to let you guys see it. So window capture. Display capture. So let me put my face in front of that. We all know you want to see my face. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new image, and we're going to put that over there. So it's going to be 1920 by 1080. It's going to have a transparent background. Now that's key here too. You need to make sure that your images have transparent backgrounds. So we're going to save this or open that up. Now what we're going to do, just to be easy, is we're going to create another new image. And this time, remember that math was 240. And we're going to leave the height as 1080. We have a new image here. Now, just for illustration purposes, I'm going to paint that black. And now I'm going to select all. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to go to that big image we're creating. I'm going to hit paste. I'm going to drag this over to the left side, like so. And then I'm going to copy it again, and I'm going to drag that over to the right side. If you are using Photoshops and you have layers, you can name them right side and left side. So this is going to be the major part of our artwork. And again, 4x3 is going to be standard for all games. So what I would suggest is you make one generic one. And the reason why is because you're not going to want to make custom bezels for every single one of your games. It's just too time consuming. You're going to want to make sure to make custom bezels for your favorite games, the games that you play often. So for this one, what we'll do is we will just simply, let's make it gray in here, gray, whoop, there. Select this layer, paint gray in there, and then we will draw some text and say, again, this is just for demo purposes, say red, really big. Let's say Mavericks Arcade. Rotate it 50 degrees that way. And then I'm going to make a copy of it. By that, I'll make a copy of it. Move it over to the other side. Rotate it. Rotate it the other way. Again, this is just something stupid so that we have some sort of graphic. Then I'm going to do save as. I'm going to save this as a PNG file. And then I'm going to call that PNG file artwork. Save that file. Now, there is another file that I had gotten from another location. Let me shrink sound thing, shrink that thing. And we're going to open up this. And basically what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you I'm looking for templates. There it is. Open folder. All right. So in this folder here, I have this little template thing I'm working on. And then what I also want is I want the other file that I've been working with. Okay. So this is another one of the files that I had created. And this is what makes these files work for the bezels is, first of all, you have to have a file that's a text file called default.lay. And in that file, you will see this will be the name of the ROM, just the beginning of it, not the extension. So let's see, what game do I want to make my screen for now? I'm looking at my system right now for what I want to. Let's just make it, say it's generic. Sorry for the delay. Okay, so we have our text file over here. Now, just make your text match what you see on the screen here, and you feel free to pause it and gather that information. But in here, you would have the name of the ROM, and then this element name artwork, we're defining it. You can change these file names to whatever you want it to be. So here we have artwork PNG. For screen mask, we're going to call this standard or screen mask PNG. Now these numbers here are where it gets important. And what it is we want the actual gameplay area that we're defining is a screen that is, as from our math, 1440 by 1080. 1440 by 1080. Now you remember how we had subtracted that from 1920 and we got the amount of 480, and that cut in half was 240. So figuring that on the side over here we're going to have 240, then our game screen, then another 240. The first pixel where we want our screen to be placed would be 241. And if we're using a mask, which I'll explain shortly, we want that to also be 241, and we want to match it to gameplay screen. The artwork is going to begin at 0 and 0, and it's the full size of 1920 by 1080. Now again, that transparency is important because in the middle of that artwork file that we had, it was invisible in the middle. And what the, now I can show you what the one-on-one is. Let me edit that. This is a file I got from a third-party location that's just kind of like, it looks like the edges of an old TV. And what I do is I just resize this image every time I need to make it for a different screen size. So we're going to change it to 1440. We're not going to let it constrain the proportions. And now you can see it looks like the edges of an old TV. So I want to save that as what I called it, screen mask PNG. No, it's already selected as PNG. And actually, what we should do is call that should rename it I'm going to call that, instead of just screen mask, it's going to be 4x3 screen mask. I'm going to edit my default layout again. It's going to be called 4x3 screen mask. Now this is the part where it's going to be a little interesting, is let's try to put, well, that's a comment, so it shouldn't matter. So it should be able to say generic 4x3. It's a comment field, so it really shouldn't make a difference, as long as the zip is called the right thing. So in that file, we need to have the default, we need to have the artwork, and we need to have the 4x3 screen mask, because that's what the default lay defines. We're going to send that to zip file. I'm going to call this generic, whoop, wrong button. Here I'm going to call this generic 4x3. And then going to open up another browser window. I'm going to try to access my arcade. Doesn't work. I'm going to have to restart my arcade. Yeah, it's not working. So let me show you. I guess my arcade's starting up too. So let's shut that off for the moment. And we're going to go to my arcade view. And we're going to show you my arcade when it starts up, because I am pretty proud of the screen I set it up to use. So it's doing its thing and restarting. Give that a moment. What you'll see I'm proud of is when it starts up, I've hacked the Windows Start, so it shows a little Galaga ship for my arcade. Don't choose to take forever to slow down. Let me see. So again, I'm using 1920 by 1080. You can review the math. We're going to do some other screen sizes here in a minute. This is just for the standard. So you can see a little Galaga ship. And once it loads in, we can put that generic 4x3 bezel in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prevent that finishing its load. See from this machine if I can get into the arcade, which I now can. So what I'm going to do is, let me switch over to second display again. So here's my arcade, and I go into the main folder, and I'm going to look for a ROM. Let's find a generic one that I haven't given a screen to yet. Let's say M Patrol for Moon Patrol. I haven't done that one yet. So under the main folder, there's a folder called Artwork. What we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of that generic 4x3 file. We're going to rename it to mpatrol.zip. Now in that folder, again, we have default lay, and then we have the two files that are mentioned within here. See artwork PNG, and we have 4x3 screen mask PNG. As long as they're present along with the default lay in the zip file, that should be enough. So we're going to take that Moon Patrol file, I'm going to open up another one of these. artwork templates. I'm going to copy the Moon Patrol over to the artwork in the application. So now what we'll do to see if that works is we're going to back to our arcade over here. And we're going to going into the arcade. We're going down to Moon Patrol. And we're going to launch Moon Patrol. Now, by default, it's not going to have that bezel loaded. It's going to be whatever it was set. Oh, actually it did. So as you can see, there's the one that we created. Now, one thing to note about these games is when you hit the tab and you go down to video options, you can see there's bezel art. And then you can see that there's standard. And you can see pixel aspect. And in this case, it's 20 by 21. Watch what happens when we select that. As you can see, the dimensions are slightly different. See, 4 by 3, it's all stretched out. But pixel aspect was 20 by 21, which is a lot more narrow. The bezel art ended up being somewhere in the middle of that. So what we want to do is, if it's a game we really care about and we're really passionate about, we generally want that pixel aspect to be what we use in designing the game. And we'll go over that math in a minute. Moon Patrol is one of those games that I'm not really that concerned about. Now, in the case of, say, a game like Area 51. Oh, sorry about that. I accidentally hit the wrong key. You reload launch box. Area 51, especially because it's a shooter game, when the graphics are shrunk down too much, your accuracy isn't as good. So that is one game I would definitely suggest we code it to the correct size. And the only difference is going to be the pixel dimensions. So in Area 51, we're going to launch that. As you can see, I already have the custom art I created on that. But what you'll notice is when we go to video, you see how it shows pixel aspect 3 by 2. The game was coded for a 3 by 2 aspect ratio versus a 4 by 3 aspect ratio. So when I made my bezel, I used the 4 by 3 math, not the 2 by 3 by 2 math, not the 4 by 3 math. Watch what happens to the picture when I switch. Now it's more narrow. That means I have less pixels to aim my gun at. Where if I set it to 3 by 2, it's a little bit wider. More surface area for me to shoot at. You can see that I used the correct 3 by 2 when I turn on the bezel art because the image stays the same minus the little screen mask that I have on the side. So watch when I change it. The resolution of the images stay the same. It just gets the extra artwork on the side. So let's talk about the difference. Let's bring back up our whiteboard. So let's back over to this side so I can see it. We bring back up the whiteboard. We're going to shut off the arcade view for now. Again, this one's a 3 by 2, so let's compare the math between the two. So we have our whiteboard here. This is what we were working on before. The key part to remember here is that when we were factoring 4 by 3, the math came out to 1920 by 1080. Whoop. That does not look good. Point is that it was, when we're considering the HD, it came out to be 1440 by 1080, right? That's what it came out to before. Shut off my Maverick title so it's not. So 1440 by 1080 is what it was with a 4:3 aspect ratio. Now we look over at do the math the same way again this time. So 1920 by 1080, factoring for a 3:2 aspect ratio. So we divide 1920 I'm hitting the wrong button over here, sorry. I'm actually hitting it on the wrong computer. So 1920 divided by 3 is 640. So we have 640 times 2, 1280. That's not right. Sorry. That was the wrong way. So it's 1920 divided by 2 multiplied by 3. No, it was right. 1920 divided by 3 multiplied by 2. Part. 1080 divided by 2 times 3. Yeah, that's more like it. Sorry. So is 1080 divided by 2 multiplied by 3. Get my math a little mixed up. But that equals 1620 by 1080. So again, divide by 2, multiply by 3, gets us 1620 by 1080. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at that screen. So we're going to shut off the whiteboard software. We're going to turn back on the second monitor. I'm going to show you the file that I used for Area 51. So again, I have a screen graphic, and this is just the blurred edges to kind of give it that old TV feel. And then here's the artwork, which again, that middle is transparent. But the lay file, when we look at that, it has, again, it's pointing to screen mask because in this file I called it screen 1. And I left it artwork. But 1620 by 1080. 1620 by 1080. Again, 1920 divided by 1620 or minus 1620 is 300 pixels. Cut in half. Each side was 150. So where my starting point was 150 or 151, it really doesn't matter because it's only 1 pixel. And then my artwork file says take up the whole screen. What's listed here under bezel art with the screen index of 0. The screen index of 0 is telling it where the actual main screen should be. So it's saying go out 150 pixels from this side, and then it's 1620 by 1080. It's the Y coordinate is 0, so it's at the very top. And it's the same exact position for it to put the screen mask above it. And again, we resize that screen mask file so that it's 1620 by 1080. Then we zip it all up into the name of the ROM, but .zip, and we put it in the artwork folder. So let me just show you now some of the other screens that I have done, and that will help you. get an idea of how to do this. So again, let's go to the arcade view. And here we have still Area 51. So we're going to back out of that game. And we're going to go to, say, The Simpsons. Or actually Gauntlet. Let's do Gauntlet first. Or Galaga. I'm sorry, Galaga. Let's launch Galaga. And as you can see, this has got a lot of the original artwork. So it looks really nice. The sizes were already defined there. And again, to toggle that, as long as you have the bezels turned on, one of the settings you want to have is under your video options. We have, as you can see, overlays enabled, backdrops enabled, bezels enabled, but we have the view is cropped. If we didn't crop it, you can see it shows you the full graphic and the screen is then shrunk in the middle. We don't want that because we don't want to waste screen and make the screen smaller just so we get all the artwork. If you do, more power to you, but I personally like to have as much of the screen as possible. So I set that to cropped. But then to select, as you can see, this is what the game would look like in a standard view. It actually is a 4x3 game. We have upright artwork. This is something that I was able to download. Now the pixel aspect, as you can see, it's a little wider. The actual game was a little bit wider, but that's not the way the artwork was made for 4x3. But if we wanted to do the math to figure out what 7:9 ratio would be, we would simply go, it would be what, 1080 divided by 9 multiplied by, again, 1920 divided by 9 multiplied by 7 would be 1493 wide. So that's really close to, it's really close to the 4x3 ratio. But you can see this one is actually 3x4 because a lot of the games, remember, they were taller than they were wide. So the other measurement might have been right. But anyway, if you're ever trying to figure out also how to get it into the right ratio that you can. Anyway, I'll show you the math. It can get a little confusing sometimes. You can get backwards if the math just doesn't look right when you do it the one way. Do it the other way, and it'll work correctly. This is the problem with me making videos this late at night. But this shows you where the stuff is. And I showed you how to do one piece already. Let's put this back into the artwork because that just looks pretty. So we're going to hit escape here. I'm going to back out. And now I'm going to show you another game that we did that I modified. That was The Simpsons. Now, The Simpsons I did not do using the 4x3 aspect ratio because it just did not look correct. So when I hit tab on here and I go down to my video options, see here's the 4x3. It's shrunk in too much. This is what the, again, pixel aspect 9x7, this is what it's supposed to look like. A little more narrow. When it's stretched out like this, when you're actually playing the game, the graphics don't look as realistic as they were intended when the game was made. So I try to go, whenever I'm making a custom bezel, I try to make sure it's done by the pixel aspect. So you can see there, now when I switch to this, the only difference is the extra layer of graphics. You can see again, pixel aspect. Look in the top corner of the screen. They're very clear, very vivid. When I turn on my effect, you got that little black area. Again, CRTs had that little black shadow around the edge, which is why I like using that border. And again, on the left and the right, I found those graphics online, and I made my own little bezel out of the corners. I understand that some of this may have sounded a little bit confusing. Again, part of it is because I'm tired, but I believe there should be enough information here for you to go off and make your own beautiful bezels. If you have any questions, let me know. There will also be a link in the description of this video of where I originally learned how to do it. Now, they go into a little more detail on things, but they sometimes make it a little too complicated as well. But they do have source files that you can download, and that's where I got that little screen mask, was from that third party. So if you're looking for that screen mask, go ahead to their video, download the link, and they provide the source files. Mine are slightly modified, but again, that's where I learned how to do it. I just wanted to put my own touch on it. One more game to show you, which is what I completed today. And this is one of the best uses. What I'm going to show you is one of the best uses I can see for using bezels. And that is for Golden Tee. And the reason why is because most of the arcade games, they just had artwork up on the bezels or on the control panel. Really, it was just to look pretty. However, Golden Tee actually has a good use for the bezels, and that's the reason why I made sure to make one for Golden Tee. So as you can see, if you remember in the Golden Tee arcade game, above the trackball, they would always show you which directions are used to make the ball hook or curve in a certain way. So on this part of the screen here, you can see I have that. For the ball to go that direction, you would have to go this way with the trackball and then that way with the trackball. Then on that side, way over there, I have the descriptions of step left, step right, fly by and stuff like that. But I also put a note on there, and the note says, regardless of how you've seen this game, played in a bar, you do not need to slam the trackball in order to play this game effectively. Thank you for not destroying my arcade. I'm sure you guys have seen when you play Golden Tee, people run up there and they full speed just wham the thing as hard as they can. That's not necessary for the game to play effectively. You just roll it and then roll it again. That's all you have to do. So I made sure to put a note on there, and again, it shows the directions that you need to roll the trackball. So it's very useful to have that on this screen. But again, I'm going to provide the link in the bottom for where I originally learned how to make these bezels. If this information did not solve it for you, maybe their more detailed explanation will provide you those answers, plus those source files that they offer, including some for having your large screen in portrait, which I don't think many people do anymore. But if you have any questions, let me know. And as always, thank you for watching. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click like below. If you have any questions or comments, you may comment below or email mavericksarcade@gmail.com. Also, we are now streaming on Twitch, and this is our URL, so it's www.twitch.tv/mavericksarcade. Please check us out. We'll be playing some old classic PS1, PS2 games and other games that I just generally didn't play much, so I'm going to need your help. If these are games that you know, please jump online. Make sure to tell me. And the way you can do that is either through the chat on Twitch, or we are now using Discord. So look on our main page. There's a URL for the Discord to join for that. And then you'll be able to join us in our live streams or when we're streaming on YouTube. That will allow us to share the chat on the screen and for you to communicate via voice over our show while we're recording. So please check it out. Looking forward to seeing you guys and actually getting to speak to you guys while we're doing our streams. Again, please consider subscribing, and thank you again for watching.